Democracy means the rule of the people, not the rule of monarchs or the moneyed, but the rule of the people. Autocracy is the opposite of democracy. It means the rule of one person, one interest, one ideology, one party. This is the struggle we're now in. A struggle for democracy, a struggle for decency and dignity, a struggle for prosperity and progress, a struggle for the very soul of America itself.
Man, I love those words, every single one of them. In fact, I wish that there was a direct correlation between words and deeds, that was the truth. Because he's right. You have democracy, which is a system governed by the rule of law, about checks and balances on different forms of government or different branches of government. But what we have right now is closer to what he described as autocracy, the rule of one. And actually, I think that maybe even more to the point, especially to what I want to talk about here today, a monarchy. I think that the current administration, not through any intention, but just through the way things have worked out. And folks, this has been going on for decades. Nothing new here, not just a finger pointing at Joe Biden, but a monarchy in that the sovereign has the sole power to decide when, where, and how much authority to use for the use of military power. And that is a very, very dangerous path that we're going down here. And before I give you some of the examples of what I'm talking about and why there is such an alarm and such a danger that I'm trying to show to people here, is that the United States in practice right now is much closer to a monarchy than it is to a democracy. Now, we have documents in place which are supposed to prevent this. In fact, the U.S. Constitution was designed to actually expressly prevent the rise of a monarchist who could run the world and tell its armed forces, a sole person, how they were going to use the military. That's why they broke from England. That was one of the primary reasons for that. But now then, we have drifted from that. So the Constitution specifically said in Article 1, to prevent that from happening, our founding fathers said that the Congress alone will have the power to decide if or when and how long and all that the United States ever employs warfare. And of course, the last time that happened was in World War II, where Congress declared war on Japan and on Germany. And since that time, it's been almost one presidential decree after another. And sometimes they have concurrence with Congress and sometimes they don't. And in fact, a lot of the Congress was alarmed about where a lot of this was going in the 70s, especially with Richard Nixon, that they actually passed the 1973 War Powers Act to try and quantify exactly what the president could and couldn't do. It didn't change the Constitution. It actually clarified it a little bit more. And it said in there, and by the way, this is one thing that is so twisted by many in both whoever happens to be in the White House at any one time and most of the mainstream media, many of the commentators, and that it's the general belief in the claim is that the War Powers Act gives the president 60 days to do what he wants with the military, and then he has to either get congressional approval or he has to stop what he's doing. That's the claim. That is not true. That is a bastardization of what it actually says. What it does say is that the president can only use the military power without congressional approval if the United States is attacked or if its allies or military forces are attacked, and that's it. That's it. It says in all other cases, anytime the president wants to introduce military force or military forces into an area where it could lead to war, he must first get concurrence, either a declaration of war or congressional authorization before introducing troops in there. It's very specific. That's the reason they had it, not to give the president a freer hand. I mean, think of the context of it anyway. If anyone thinks much about it, it's in the process of Richard Nixon trying to get too much power into the office of the president. So they passed this law to make it clear where there's firewalls between those things, not making it easier, which is how it's been now treated ever since then. So let's be clear. The only thing about a 60-day in that War Powers Act, it said even if he uses it in the first case, because we've been attacked, he still requires to report back Congress within those 60 days. So there is 60 days in there, but only after the Constitution requirements have been met. That's important. That's what's supposed to be the case. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But folks, you may not even be aware of this, but right now, the drift that has been going on for a long time, that's now to the point to where there's almost not even any pretending that Congress has any role here. Now it's almost it just overtly stated, we'll do whatever we want to do, meaning the White House and the office of the presidency, whatever we want to do. And they're not even having throwaway lines and fake like we're going to consult with Congress. So here is the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, just a couple of days ago, when asked, if situation in the Middle East grows tense and Israel starts to get into a war with Iran, what would the United States do? Watch his answer.
If Israel is attacked, we certainly will help defend Israel. You saw us do that in April. You can expect to see us do that again. But we don't want to see any of that happen. We're going to work hard to make sure that we're doing things to help take the temperature down and address issues through diplomatic means.
Now, if you're wondering what he means by last time, he's talking about in June of this year, when after Israel attacked a diplomatic embassy compound in Damascus, which broke every convention that you can imagine and every violation of international rules-based order that we allegedly support. In response to that, Iran then attacked Israel with a bunch of missiles and drones. And now, as we've talked about it, we covered this at the time, that they did so in a way that they knew that Israel would be able to shoot them down, because they didn't want to escalate, but they did want to send a strong message that said, you can't destroy one of our embassies and have no response from it. So that's what happened then. And what Austin's referring to, what we did last time, is that the U.S. Air Force basically just handed itself over to the use by Israel. So Israel caused this issue, this response, by breaking international norms and destroying an embassy building of Iran in Damascus. And we came in to bail them out by sending our Air Force, which shot down allegedly 70 of these incoming drones and missiles. That's what we did last time. No one complained about that at the time. No, Congress didn't say, hey, you took us into a situation where we actually engaged in a acts of war against another nation, Iran, on behalf of Israel. We don't have a defense treaty with Israel, but even if we did, the law still requires, before the president sends American forces into combat zones, that he have congressional authorization to do so. Express congressional authorization. He didn't ask for it. He didn't get it. And nobody in Congress lifted a word. No one said anything. So this is not just that the administration and the office of the presidency and the executive is taking power and poor Congress is getting blindsided. They're complicit in this because they're silent. They're not moving forward with their own and demanding that their constitutional powers also be invoked. So they deserve condemnation as well. So the net is really bad for America, because the balance of power that our founding fathers put into place is almost non-existent right now, because they're doing whatever they want to do and the Congress is passively going along with it. But in case anybody's thinking, well, that's just a one-off by Austin, then here is John Kirby adding a little more fuel to the fire.
The president has always maintained that we would prefer Iran not to have a nuclear weapon through diplomacy, but he has also made absolutely clear our policy has been crystal. We will not allow Iran to achieve a nuclear weapons capability. We prefer to do that through diplomacy. That hasn't worked, and frankly, that's not really on the table right now. We haven't been talking to Iran for quite some time, and so we've got to make sure that we've got other capabilities, other options available to the president, including potential military options, and the Department of Defense works on that every day.
Okay, did you hear that? I mean, he's not even trying to hide it. He flat out says, we want to give the president tools so that if he needs to use military power, he can, and more options on the table. He didn't say anything, Kirby didn't, about, well, we're going to go to Congress and we're going to request this authorization. No, he just said the president needs. So he's going to take. That's what the Department of Defense is for, in his view. And yeah, we'd like to do it with diplomacy, but if not, we, meaning the administration, not we being America, are going to take action here. And that is completely contrary to the rule of law, to the U.S. Constitution. He doesn't have that authority, yet he's taking it. And listen, this is a dark situation, and it's very, very dangerous because of where this could lead. And I want to show you one more thing here, because this is two of the spokesmen. But then, well, maybe the president doesn't think that. Well, the president met with Netanyahu, and after his meeting, or it was a phone call, I think it was, the White House released a statement that said, here's what the readout was. Now, one of the key parts of it was that the President Biden told Netanyahu, that we understand they're in situation difficulties, and we're going to help them, to include defensive military deployments of U.S. military power. And now then we see concurrent with that, or nearly concurrent with the reports that 12 U.S. warships have deployed to the region. And what in the world is going on with this? Now, referring back to what Austin said of what we did last time, you may recall that we sent warships into the Mediterranean at that time too, before actions. So we sent them together so that we had all these aircraft to respond, et cetera. Now here comes 12 warships going into the area after everybody in the world is saying we're going to, potentially not just have Israel's back, but have their front, and go to war, because all of this is surrounding the potential and lots of signs indicating that Israel's about ready to launch a war into Lebanon, into the southern Lebanon against Hezbollah, because it's been a thorn in their side for a long time. They've been going back and forth with missiles ever since October, ever since Israel invaded into the Gaza Strip. Hezbollah predictably has been trying to help out their co-religionists in the Arabs and the Palestinian areas. And so that is a fallout, an expansion of the Israeli war against Hamas, and it's predictable. Of course, we also have the issue in the Red Sea with the Houthis. We're already sending U.S. military forces there on a routine basis that now scores of times have attacked into the Middle East. Into Yemen against the Houthis down there. You can see on this image right here, we already have tens of thousands of troops in the Middle East spread all over the place. Being ready to act not in our defense, but in Israel's defense. And we've already lost 3 of our troops as a direct result of this war, because of the other people that are against the Israelis in the area and that are for the Palestinians have vowed to continue to attack our interest and Israeli interests throughout the region. So we've already lost 3 troops that were in Jordan at the time, just across the Syrian border. And now then we've been using, just scores and scores of our missiles, missile interceptors and other kinds of activities in a fruitless attack against the Houthis in there. Now then we're talking about maybe we're also going to go to war with Israel against Hezbollah in Lebanon. And if that happens, the chances are quite high then that Iran joins on the side of Hezbollah, because that is their biggest regional ally in that area in the Middle East. You also have an additional possibility that Turkey could actually attack into Israel if they go into Lebanon. Erdogan has said that. Whether he'll do it or not, whether that's a bluff, it's unknown. But just imagine how this could expand. Will Russia stand sideways especially if Iran gets into a war with Israel? Will they not also, because they're allies now with Iran, they've been getting military support for the Russia war in Ukraine. Will they return the favor now and help Iran in its fight if it gets into a war with Israel? You see, this could go all kinds of sideways. You literally could have a major regional conflict, and Congress is asleep. The White House has become a monarch. This is his military force to do with whatever he wants, and Congress is doing nothing about it. This is a very, very dangerous situation, folks, because we cannot get into a situation where one person gets to decide if America goes to war. Already there's been large numbers of people in the United States that are tired of this stuff. But it's not even just this, because that's in the Middle East here. But as we see, you also have Biden actually saying, we're going to not pay attention to Congress when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war. That when we gave that $61 billion not long ago, back in April, to the Ukraine side, it took like half a year to get it passed. One of the requirements that Congress did say was, okay, we're going to give you this money, but within, I think it's 90 days or maybe it was 100 days, we want to see a specific strategy. What's this money going for? How long is it going to take? What is the objectives that you're trying to attain, etc.? Where is that? There's not. We actually have a report out from Responsible Statecraft, Anatoly Levin today. He's calling them out on it. He's saying, hey, there is no such news. Where is it? Where is the response? And you see that the White House has no interest, or even, I don't think they ever had any thought that they're going to actually comply with what Congress said, because they're a monarch. They're a sovereign that they get to decide. They don't going to be bothered with what some little congressional committee says. They don't have any interest in doing that. And then that's not it. Then you also had Biden in previous, earlier times, earlier in his administration, where he said, oh yeah, I'll defend Taiwan. If China attacks Taiwan, I'm going to defend them too. Okay, folks, we don't have a treaty with Taiwan, a military defense treaty. We don't even have a military defense treaty with Israel. Israel has fought wars before. We didn't fight in any of them. So that's something that each nation has to do. And they have to make their own calculations if they're going to go to war. If they're not going to go to war, then we have to make our own national decisions about whether we should fight a war, have Americans killed, possibly lose a war, one especially against two nuclear superpowers in Russia and China that maybe could go nuclear. And before one round is fired, before any of that happens, it is by law and by the U.S. Constitution that the Congress has to make that call, because they are your representative. You actually are supposed to get a vote in this. But you see, when all of that has evaporated, and when all Congress cares about is making money, all Congress cares about is getting defense contracts. All Congress cares about is getting money from these defenders for their campaigns to win. And they're afraid to make any of these people who give them money angry. So they don't stand up for their rights. They don't stand up for you. They don't say, hey, we're Congress. We're not the executive branch. We have our own powers here, and you'll do what we say within our authority. Instead, whichever side has the White House, that's their allies in Congress, just do whatever they say. So it's no longer Congress, the legislative and the executive branch. It's the Republican and the Democratic parties have now superseded our Constitution. So they will do whatever it takes to support their guy in the White House, and they will be as subservient as can be. But you see, even the opposition party is not doing anything. You don't see a bunch of people standing up from the Republican Party and saying we have an imperial presidency, that we have a monarch is going on, and that are calling stuff out like I'm doing today. This should be an alarm. Biden could potentially get us into wars in 3 different parts of the world. 2 of them in particular, because there's hot war going on in Russia, Ukraine, and that's been on the edge for a while. Now that in the Middle East, he's potentially going to pull us into another war. And what in the world is going on with this? Why does no one in America care about the rule of law anymore? Why has Congress literally handed over all of their authority and their power under the Constitution to the executive, to the single person who's in that role? And then here's Biden on that clip we showed at the open here. He's warning Americans, we can't have an autocrat where one person calls the shots. We have a democracy. We have a democracy in words, folks. I'm just telling you, this is as empirical evidence as can be. In practice, we are not a democracy. We're not even a republic. We are a monarchist. We are a monarchy country that is ruled by one autocrat, sovereign, monarch, whatever word you want to use. It's one person who gets to decide. One. And you will either go along with it or you won't. And if things go bad, you will pay for it. You will pay for it. All of us will. And you don't have any voice over what's going on here. Folks, this is an alarming situation here, because we should never be in a situation where America is drawn into a war that could go nuclear, where entire cities can get vaporized, and we not even have a voice. We better get control back of our country rapidly. Congress better start stepping up and doing its job here. And we have to hold them accountable to this. We have to tell them we're not going to accept this anymore. This is something that we have to do. And it's hard, obviously, because they've got the levers of power. They have the White House. They have the operational control over the Pentagon. The Congress has control over the purse strings here. We don't have any say over who gets elected, because only the people with lots and lots of money, millions of dollars, even get to compete. So that shuts us out of a lot of this. But we have to take whatever authority our ability we have with the power of the vote to make our voices known. Do things like share this video with your friends. Make sure that people are aware that we are turning into a monarchy, if not already there. and at least make sure that people are aware of the serious dangers that we have to take some action quick, or it may be too late. I pray that it's not, but folks, you need to know, and I don't like to have to make these kinds of shows here, but this is an alarming situation that you need to be aware of, and everybody you know needs to be aware of this too. Please do share this video much more than normal. I'm not just asking so that we can get more views. This is a potentially existential issue for all of us. And I know that a significant portion of our audience here is not in America. It's international around the world. Whatever happens here, believe me, will have ramifications for others as well. So everybody needs to be aware of this, and we need to get this under control. Thanks ever so much for watching this today. Really do appreciate this, even though it was a bit of a dark topic here. It's something that you need to know, and we are unintimidated and uncompromised and bring you the truth, even when it's not good from our side, because that's what we do here. Thanks very much, and we'll see you on the next episode of Daniel Davis Deep Dive.